Let me put a scene in your head real quick. It is freezing outside, your bones are chilled, and you open the refrigerator hoping a hot meal will just magically appear without any of the scrubbing or stirring that usually comes with it. That quiet wish for warmth without the work is something we all share, especially when the joints are stiff and the wind won't quit. The reality is you do not require a culinary degree or a sink full of dirty dishes to eat something that actually fuels your body right. What if the answer was just one small skillet, and maybe the time it takes for a commercial break to end? Today we are walking through some gentle, heated plates that are specifically suited for mature stomachs and busy schedules. These are the sorts of meals that make a cold afternoon feel like a warm hug from the inside out, without turning your kitchen into a steamy, chaotic mess. And since we keep things practical around here with zero fluff, if that sounds like your speed, go ahead and tap that button to join us at my channel. We're all about staying upright, feeling decent and eating well without the headache. So pour yourself a mug of something hot, settle into that chair, and we'll start with the first simple skillet idea. The initial offering is a warm egg skillet with spinach and creamy white beans. This is the quintessential cold weather rescue meal. We are aiming for something that clocks in under 5 minutes flat, occupies a single piece of cookware, and yet still deposits a hefty dose of what your muscles and digestive system are craving. Begin by placing a small non-stick pan over a moderate flame. Introduce a teaspoon of olive oil or a small pat of butter if you prefer that richer taste. Once the surface is shimmering, toss in roughly half a cup of canned cannellini or Great Northern beans that you have given a quick rinse. Allow those beans to mingle with the heat for about 2 minutes. They are already soft by nature, which makes them an absolute gift for anyone who wants to avoid heavy chewing or dental gymnastics. Once they are warm to the touch, throw in a generous handful of fresh spinach. Now I know it looks like you are trying to cook a small forest in a pan, but give it a minute. Watch closely as those leaves wilt down to almost nothing, tucking themselves around the beans in a soft green tangle. Shift that mixture over to one side of the skillet just a bit, making a small clearing. Crack one large egg directly into that empty spot. Let it sit there undisturbed until the whites are set just the way you like them. Some prefer a runny center to act as a sauce, while others want it cooked solid as a rock. Both are perfectly fine. A gentle dusting of salt and cracked pepper is the only finishing touch required. When the egg is ready, slide the entire contents onto a plate or just stand over the sink with the skillet if the day calls for less ceremony. This humble combination yields close to 18 grams of protein and nearly 8 grams of fiber. That is a staggering return for such a lazy effort. If you find the texture a bit much, there is an effortless modification. While the beans are warming, take the back of your fork and squish some of them against the pan. This creates a makeshift, soft paste that blends perfectly with the runny yolk and tender spinach. You can even scramble the egg straight into the bean mixture for a unified, custardy texture that glides down with no resistance. And if spinach has never been your leafy green of choice, swap it for finely diced zucchini or pre-cooked mushrooms, both of which become unbelievably tender with a whisper of heat. Shifting gears to breakfast, consider the comfort of warm peanut butter banana oatmeal. There is a reason oatmeal has survived for centuries as the go-to morning gruel. On a morning when the frost is clinging to the window pane, a plain bowl of oats is fine, but a dressed-up bowl is transcendent. The secret is bolstering it without turning your morning routine into a chemistry experiment. Pour half a cup of rolled oats into a small pot. Add a cup of milk. Dairy is preferable here because it elevates the creaminess and the protein profile simultaneously. Place it over a moderate heat and stir occasionally. It only takes a few rotations of the spoon before the oats start to puff up and the liquid thickens into that recognizable porridge state. At this precise moment, before it gets gluey, stir in 1 heaping tablespoon of smooth peanut butter. Watch it melt and ribbon through the hot grains. Then take half of a ripe banana, slice it into coins so thin they are nearly translucent. Fold those into the pot. The residual heat will soften the fruit to an almost jam-like consistency, sweetening the entire pot naturally. A final wave of cinnamon across the top is non-negotiable. It tricks the brain into thinking you are eating a warm bakery bun. This bowl delivers roughly 15 grams of protein and a solid 7 grams of fiber. It is steady energy that won't send you crashing into a nap by 10 o'clock. For those who worry about the thickness or stickiness of peanut butter when swallowing, there is a smooth workaround. Swap that spoonful of nut butter for 2 spoonfuls of plain Greek yogurt folded in at the very end. It cools the oatmeal slightly but makes it impossibly silky and light on the throat. And if chewing banana is a task, mash it completely before it even hits the pot. The fruit will dissolve entirely, leaving behind only sweetness and potassium. Now let me introduce you to a combination that sounds odd but tastes like a warm, savory secret: the tuna and chickpea skillet. This is one of those pantry-driven dishes that requires zero foresight and delivers maximum satisfaction. Heat a small skillet with a touch of olive oil. Add half a cup of chickpeas that have been thoroughly drained. Let them roll around in the heat for a couple of minutes. If you want to be a little fancy, a spoonful of minced onion thrown in at this stage will perfume the entire kitchen and soften into sweet submission. While that's happening, flake open a small can of tuna packed in water and drain it completely. Dump the tuna into the skillet with the warming chickpeas. You are not aiming to fry the fish. You are simply letting the tuna borrow some warmth from the legumes. It takes only 60 seconds for the mixture to unify. Finish the entire affair with a generous spritz of fresh lemon juice and a turn of the pepper grinder. This is a warm bowl that sits in the stomach like a brick of good health, providing upwards of 27 grams of protein and 8 grams of fiber. For many, this is the difference between being hungry again in an hour and sailing through the afternoon. If the texture of chickpeas gives you pause, employ the fork mash technique again. Press down on a few of them as they heat. They will crumble and thicken the pan juices, making everything much softer to manage. If tuna feels a bit too dry and clings to the mouth, fold in a spoon of plain yogurt or even a small dollop of hummus. This adds a layer of moisture that makes swallowing effortless while keeping the protein count in the stratosphere. You can eat it straight from a bowl, or if you are feeling indulgent, pile it on a piece of crisp toast for a warm, open-faced moment of glory. Moving on to a tomato and lentil comfort bowl that tastes like it simmered for hours, but was actually ready in the time it took to find your slippers. Lentils are the quiet workhorses of the pantry. Open a can, rinse them to wash away the brine, and you are halfway to a meal that supports everything from muscle tone to gut regularity. Place 3/4 of a cup of those rinsed lentils into a small saucepan. Pour in half a cup of canned, diced tomatoes, juices included. That liquid gold is what prevents this dish from becoming a dry, dusty relic. Add a small drizzle of olive oil and a pinch of garlic powder. Apply medium heat and stir with a gentle hand. As the mixture warms over the next few minutes, the tomatoes will start to break down and melt into the crevices of the lentils. What you end up with is a rustic, stew-like bowl that feels like it belongs in a farmhouse kitchen. The nutritional payoff is around 14 grams of protein and an impressive 11 grams of fiber. If tomatoes tend to disagree with you or cause that familiar acid twinge, simply omit them and stir in a 1/4 cup of plain Greek yogurt once the lentils are hot. That transforms the dish into a creamy, mild alternative that is even easier on the palate. You can scoop it up with a spoon all on its own, or let it rest next to a slice of warm whole-grain toast. Either way, it's proof that comfort food doesn't need a laundry list of instructions. Let's pause for a moment and think about texture. There are days when a crisp apple or a tough piece of meat feels like an insurmountable mountain. On those days, having a mental list of soft, nutritious options is a game changer. It keeps you nourished without the frustration. I've actually compiled a personal list of over 50 meals that prioritize ease of chewing and swallowing while keeping taste front and center. I've left a note about that in the pinned spot below if you want to sneak a peek after we finish. All right, let's press forward. Number 5 is a game changer: cottage cheese and a warm apple skillet. Most people relegate cottage cheese to the cold salad plate, but when you blanket it with warm butter-sautéed fruit, it transforms into something resembling a deconstructed pie filling that just so happens to be packed with casein protein. Melt a small knob of butter in your trusty skillet. Take half of an apple, dice it into pieces no bigger than a fingernail. Smaller cuts mean faster softening. Tumble the apple into the butter and let it sizzle gently for about 3 or 4 minutes. As the fruit cooks, it releases its own sugars and becomes translucent and tender. A dash of cinnamon in the pan at the end will make your home smell like an autumn festival. While the apples are still steaming, scoop 3/4 of a cup of cottage cheese into a waiting bowl. Crown it with the hot, buttery apples. The contrast of the cool, creamy curds against the warm, yielding fruit is genuinely delightful. This bowl delivers roughly 22 grams of protein. If walnuts are your thing, a small scattering adds a nice crackle, but if they pose a challenge, omit them entirely. Alternatively, a sprinkle of chia seeds left to soften in the warmth of the apples offers the same fiber boost without any crunch. If the apples aren't quite soft enough after 4 minutes, let them go another round. You want them to collapse under the slightest pressure of a fork. Sixth, we have to discuss the unsung hero of the canned goods aisle, the simple sardine and avocado toast. Sardines are a nutritional powerhouse that are often overlooked because of their reputation, but they are actually one of the most senior-friendly proteins in existence. They are soft, rich in calcium from the bones you barely notice, and packed with oils that support brain health. Toast a slice of hearty bread. While that's happening, mash 1/4 of a ripe avocado in a bowl with a squeeze of lemon. Spread that green cream over the warm toast. Open a tin of sardines, drain off the oil, and lay the delicate fillets over the avocado bed. You can leave them whole for a rustic look or break them up with a fork to distribute the flavor more evenly. This meal is an omega-3 goldmine, providing roughly 24 grams of protein and a good hit of fiber from the toast. If the crust of the bread is a bit too aggressive for your mouth, skip the toasting step and use a soft, fresh slice. Or better yet, ditch the bread entirely and serve the sardines and avocado over a half cup of warm, mashed white beans. That creates a soft, spoonable bowl that requires zero chewing, but maximum enjoyment. And the next time someone wrinkles their nose at the idea of sardines, just know you are eating the meal of champions. Seventh on the list is a chicken and bean warm wrap that feels like a proper lunch, but assembles faster than you can find the remote control. A small skillet is your best friend here. Warm half a cup of black beans that you've drained and rinsed. As they heat, they become increasingly soft. Add about 2 ounces of pre-cooked chicken. This could be the last of a rotisserie bird from the market or some sliced breast meat from the deli counter. Stir the duo together until everything is uniformly hot. Spoon in a couple tablespoons of your favorite salsa. The moisture from the salsa is what keeps this filling from being a dusty, dry mess. Scoop this warm, savory mixture into the center of a small whole-grain tortilla. Fold it like a parcel. If you want to elevate the experience, place the wrapped bundle back in the hot skillet seam side down for about 30 seconds. This gives the outside a pleasant toasted armor while the inside stays steaming. This package contains nearly 27 grams of protein and close to 9 grams of fiber. If the texture of the wrap is too chewy, simply deconstruct it. Dump the warm chicken and bean mixture into a bowl, top it with a spoonful of Greek yogurt to add creaminess, and eat it with a spoon. It is all the flavor with none of the jaw work. Eighth, consider a quinoa egg breakfast bowl. Quinoa is that tiny seed that behaves like a grain but thinks like a protein. It is naturally light on the stomach but heavy on the staying power. Warm half a cup of pre-cooked quinoa in a pan. If it has been hiding in the fridge, a splash of water will help it steam back to life. While that warms, prepare 1 egg however you see fit. Scrambled is usually the safest bet for softness. Pile the warm quinoa into a bowl, set the egg on top, and shower the whole thing with a spoonful of pumpkin seeds for a bit of texture and extra fiber. This is a solid 15 to 17 grams of protein before 9 in the morning. If seeds are a non-starter, swap them for ground flaxseed, which disappears into the quinoa like a ghost but leaves behind all the good omega-3s. And if you find quinoa a little too dry on its own, stir a couple tablespoons of plain yogurt into the warm grain before adding the egg. It creates a risotto-like creaminess that is pure comfort. Ninth is a warm Greek yogurt berry oats bowl that masquerades as dessert. We are back to the oats, but this time with a fruity, creamy twist. Combine half a cup of rolled oats, 3/4 of a cup of milk, and half a cup of frozen berries in a pot. Turn on the heat and watch the magic happen. As the oats bubble, the berries thaw and burst, staining the entire mixture a deep, beautiful purple. Stir it every now and then to prevent sticking. After about 4 minutes, the oats will be soft and the berries will have melted into a natural syrup. Remove it from the fire, and this is the crucial step: stir in a 1/4 cup of plain Greek yogurt at the very end. Doing this off the heat prevents the yogurt from separating or curdling, resulting in a bowl that is outrageously creamy and packed with roughly 20 grams of protein. This is the meal you want on a day when your soul needs a hug and your body needs sustenance. The berries soften to the point of being negligible in terms of chewing, but if seeds from berries are an issue, stewed apples or mashed banana work just as brilliantly as a substitute. 10th, we have a turkey and white bean skillet that is the definition of savory simplicity. Heat a touch of oil in your pan. Add a tablespoon of fine diced onion and let it sweat for just a minute until it loses its raw bite. Then add 1/2 cup of white beans. Stir them around to coat them in the fragrant oil. Now introduce 2 ounces of cooked turkey. Whether it is from a leftover holiday roast or simply high-quality sliced turkey from the deli chopped up small, it all works. Stir until everything is piping hot. A pinch of pepper and maybe a squeeze of lemon is all you need. This skillet meal provides about 25 grams of protein and a robust serving of fiber. If you want this to be even more gentle, use the back of your spatula to crush some of the beans against the side of the pan. They will release their starchy guts and thicken the dish into something reminiscent of a soft stew. It coats the tongue easily and requires almost no effort to get down. 11th is a bit of a wild card: warm hummus and chickpea toast. This is a double down on the chickpea. Warm a 1/4 cup of chickpeas in a dry skillet for just a couple of minutes. This simple act of heating them makes them surprisingly more tender and flavorful than straight from the can. Toast a piece of bread, smear it with a generous layer of hummus, and then spoon the warm chickpeas right on top. The hummus warms slightly from the toast below and the beans above, creating a creamy, savory strata that is satisfying in a way cold hummus could never be. This yields roughly 13 grams of protein and 8 grams of fiber. If the toast is too hard, skip it and scoop the hummus and warm chickpeas onto a pile of warm, mashed white beans. It becomes a triple bean threat that is supremely soft. Finally, we circle back to where we started, but with a twist: warm apple cinnamon protein oats. It is the same drill, but worthy of its own mention because it never gets old. Combine 1/2 cup oats, 1 cup milk, and a small chopped apple in a pot. Cook until the apple pieces are so tender they nearly disappear when you stir them. Finish with a spoon of peanut butter and a shower of cinnamon. This bowl is a classic for a reason. It gets you roughly 15 grams of protein and a solid 8 grams of fiber. And if the skin of the apple is a nuisance, peel it before you dice it. Problem solved. All right, my friend, we've reached the end of our warm little journey. Nothing we talked about today required a chef's hat or a 2-hour cleanup. It was all about getting warm, real food into your system to support your strength and keep the digestive wheels turning smoothly. If any of these ideas sparked a little hunger or gave you a plan for tomorrow's lunch, drop a quick note below. I always appreciate seeing which combinations resonate with the community here at my channel. And while you're there, take a quick glance at the pinned spot. I keep a few handy references there that help keep my own eating on track without the mental gymnastics. And if this felt like a good use of your time, give that like button a click and make sure you're locked into my channel so we can keep things simple again next time. Stay cozy, eat well, and I'll catch you in the next one.